everybody, and welcome to this session on how to feel more confident in your decision making. So this is the third, I believe, session in my Growing Leaders series. So it's a mini series. I'm going to be taking a pause actually on this series for the next month or so. So this is the last session for now, but we'll be back in about 4 or 5 weeks. So something that comes up, I suppose, a lot with coaching, because often when people come to me for one-to-one coaching support, they often want to make a decision. Maybe they're at a crossroads in their career. Maybe they are facing change, maybe being offered voluntary redundancy through a restructure, maybe whatever it might be, you need to make a decision, or you might be struggling with decision making in work. So that sort of procrastination, or that sense that you find it hard to commit to a decision and feel confident in your decision making. So if any of that applies to you, then this session is for you. So just quickly to introduce myself for anyone who is new into my world, my name is Emily Petty. I'm the founder of Lead Your Way, and Lead Your Way is a community of women. It's a business that helps and supports women to grow in confidence, to redefine what success looks like for them, to be able to make decisions, to navigate their career in a way that empowers them to lead their way, as the name suggests, and to lead others in a supportive and empowering way. And I do that through one-to-one coaching, group coaching programs, working in-house with teams, and through training and facilitation. So it's firstly important to note that when it comes to decision making, we might have a natural preference. So I think it was last week I talked about CME colour profiling. I found that tool really, really helpful because it helps you identify maybe some of your preferences. And similarly with behavioural preferences, decision making, you might need a certain number of things in place. So for example, you might be very quick and direct at your decision making. You come to a decision very quickly, but then maybe you regret it, or sort of have to sort of backtrack. You might make sure, or have a natural preference to make sure that you've got everything in a row. So you've got all the logic in place, you've done all of the thinking, you've looked at all of the steps from A to B to C, all of the scenarios before you make the decision. You might have a natural preference to collaborate and to get other people's views. You might have a preference to reflect and draw back and take some time on your own before you make a decision. So you might notice that actually when you're put under pressure to make a decision, perhaps in a meeting or in a very quick moment, you find that quite challenging. And it's important to say that all of that's okay. We need to allow for and facilitate different ways of decision making in the workplace. So if, for example, you do notice that when you're put on the spot, you find it quite difficult to make a decision or come up with an answer, it's absolutely fine. It's not that you're bad at decision making, it's that you have a different preference. So it's okay to say, I'm not able to make this decision in this moment, but I will reflect on it and I will come back to you tomorrow. So avoid procrastination, give yourself a deadline, but make sure that you're giving yourself what you need in order to make that decision. And equally, if someone comes to you in your team and they say, should we run this event? I've had this information, and should we do this? Actually, if you need all the information, you say, well, thank you for bringing that to me. I'm not able to make a decision on that without X, Y, and Z facts. So have a think about what your preferences are and what you notice yourself doing, and also who you're around with decision making. So you might be surrounded by people who have a different decision making preference to you, and it's important to sort of identify what your decision making preference is and then create boundaries that you need around that, so that it's not an indicator that you're bad at decision making, it's an indicator that you have a specific preference. So number one tip, I suppose, is to really think about what you need to enable you to effectively make decisions, what boundaries you need to be put in place, and then what you need to communicate to the people around you so that they know and understand they're not necessarily telepathic. And as I say, they might have a different decision-making preference to you. Then, if you are putting off a decision, if it is something that's been on your mind for a long time and you are not moving forward and taking action, you're in that kind of stuck struggle space, it's really important to ask yourself the question and to be really honest with yourself. Why am I putting off this decision? So it could be because you don't have the facts or the information. It could be fear. It could be fear of the unknown. It could be a negative past experience which is stopping you from taking that leap, from taking that action, from moving forward. It could be a lack of internal confidence or inner belief. It might be that you're not clear on actually what matters. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can navigate that effectively. So that's the first question. If you know that you're putting something off or you're finding a decision difficult, why are you putting it off? Why are you finding it this difficult? Have a check in on your emotions, what's going on behind. So just take some time to notice. So if you received my weekly email, I shared 5 top tips. So I'm going to go through those 5 top tips to help you feel more confident in your decision making. So the first is context. So I share a tool often when I'm doing leadership work, and that is called the Waterline Decision Making Tool. So what is the context for this decision? So sometimes it's helpful to step right back. So sometimes it feels really big, really overwhelming, the catastrophe of what might happen if I choose this decision or that decision or this option or that option. Actually, if you step right back and ask, will it sink the ship? So if it's related to work, what would the worst case scenario be if I made this decision? And so the idea is that, you're a ship in the, Spanish Armada. That's how I imagine it anyway. And you've got cannonballs being thrown, projected at you through cannons. And if the cannonball hits under the waterline, it could sink the ship. If it hits above the waterline, it's not going to be critical. We can patch it up. So is the decision going to sink the ship? And actually, one of the ways you can do that is to step back and gain perspective. So often we over catastrophize something that actually is really very inconsequential and spend far too much energy and effort on something that ends up being quite exhausting because we don't have the perspective. So have a think about your perspective and the context of the decision. So step right back. The second top tip is to find your values. So if you don't know what your values are or haven't checked in on your values for a while, because our values do change, I share a tool, and please DM me if you want the workbook for this. And it basically runs through a series of questions which helps you to reflect on your energy, your motivation, your passion, your purpose, and that helps you to drive towards your values. So I basically ask kind of, when were you happiest at work? Who were you with? What were you doing? What was happening? And when were you most frustrated or unhappy at work? What was happening? Who were you with? What was going on? What were you doing? And that helps you to look at both the positive and negative, so you can have sort of some anti-values that you could flip into values. It helps you to start to see some themes. So for example, when I did that exercise, there was a job where I had a lot of autonomy and freedom, and I was really empowered to get on with the job. So then I sort of started to identify, autonomy probably is something that is important for me. Collaboration came out as something that was quite strong for me. So you can use that tool to have a think about what actually matters most. You can answer that question, what matters most, what's important for you. You can look at lists of values. You can Google lists of values. Brené Brown has a good list of values, and you can simply work through which ones stand out for you, which ones are really important for you at the moment. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people say, oh gosh, don't we all have the same values? Actually, people come up with some very different values, and also as we go through life, we change our values for periods of time. So even if you've done this work in the past, it's really good to check in. So why do we need to know our values when we're making decisions? So you can ask, will this decision or will this action, this course of action, drive me closer to my values? Is it in line with my values? Are the people I might work with in alignment with my values? Do we share values? Do we share a purpose and motivation, for example? So it starts to give you a lens by which you can make decisions. So sometimes people in work life might force you to make some decisions which just don't sit right. It might be that you have to make quite a challenging decision. Maybe you have to share that someone has done something that you disagree on, or you have to disagree with them and stand up for what you believe in, or stand up for someone else. So when we're connected to our values, it makes it easier to take that action and make that decision. So the second top tip is to know your values. Check in on your values, align yourself to your values. The third top tip is, I've called it strategy and emotion. It could be strategy and emotion, head and heart. So particularly in the workplace, we are taught to make decisions strategically, to look at the outcomes, look at the possible scenarios, to gather data, and to make a decision based on evidence and insight and facts, and to play out the possible scenarios, as I've said. Strategy is brilliant. I love strategy. But equally, sometimes we need to go with our heart or with our gut and with our emotions. So when we are facing logic, and all the logic says one thing and our emotions say another, then we need to look, actually, how can we get the balance between strategy and emotion, between our heads and our hearts? So it may be at times strategy overrides, but you need to not ignore our emotions. So check in with your emotions. What is it saying? What are they saying? What are they signposting to? What matters most? That'll link back to the values piece. Also could link back to the context as well. So they're all linked here. But have a think. Make sure that you're checking in both with strategy and your gut. And if your gut is super, super strong, sometimes that is the only course of action and the best course of action. What action can you take? What decision can you make which will enable you to find peace, to feel peace? And sometimes it isn't logical. When I was in full-time work, I faced a restructure, and there were 2 jobs that I could apply for. I applied for one as my preference. I didn't get that job, and in that moment, my gut said, take the redundancy and leave. Sort of strategic, logical brain said, you're absolutely crazy, Emily. You're going to throw out this opportunity for this other job, which could give you loads more experience. Go for it. I went for it, and I stayed in that organisation. And it wasn't the wrong decision in the end, but it was hard, really, really hard. And in some ways, making that first decision to leave may have reduced some heartbreak and heartache and a lot of pain for me, but equally I journeyed through that experience and experienced growth from that. So in some ways, I guess strategy said one thing, emotion said another. I went with strategy. In the end, it wasn't the wrong decision, but equally I could have gone with the gut, and that equally could have been the right decision. Which leads on to my next point, which is see your decision as an opportunity for growth. So at the time when I made that decision, I don't think I thought, oh, this is an opportunity. Well, I think I did see it as an opportunity for growth and personal development, but I didn't see the possibility that maybe if I was getting it wrong, and therefore it was an opportunity for growth. But I think we hold on to the idea that a decision is right or wrong, and actually that's not true. We live in a world where the binary A, B choices are not there. We're in a constantly changing world. We actually, the solutions or the sort of way we should do things are ever evolving. So there is no one right way. And if you think about your career, sorry, someone in my house, your career and career growth, previously there were prescribed steps that you take. And now actually the way you do things, we do things is so fluid. It's so adaptable. I could change my business strategy tomorrow and with one successful post on social media, launch something completely different. It can be that quick. So I think understanding that there is no right or wrong decision is really important. And therefore, if we frame that I'm going to go with my gut or strategy and I'm going to make this decision and I'm going to trust that everything is working for me, that every decision is an opportunity to grow and to learn. So even if I get it wrong, I'm going to learn from this. So if we shift our goal to be towards growth, to be towards learning, to be towards just that continual idea of growing, we can have the confidence that we'll look back on our life experiences, even some of the most sort of horrid or challenging experiences, with some sense of peace, I suppose, because we have learnt through that and we have grown through that. And I look back on some really very challenging experiences in my life, and most of those cases I've navigated them really by balancing these 5 points that I offer here. But the thing that has given me the most peace in the hardest of times is that knowing that I'm growing, and that has been a transformational shift for me in my life. And my final tip number 5, is to be present. So when we are making decisions, our computer in our brain is drawing on data. Oh, remember last time when you made that decision, Emily, this and this happened. Remember last time when this happened. Da, 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 da. So our computer we are programmed to make decisions based on past evidence, and our past evidence might be drawing from our chimp brain, our emotional reactive brain, or from our logical. So that's where we've got the strategy and the heart. So it's about balancing those two, recognizing maybe a reactionary response that might be, oh, everything's going to go wrong, it's not being great, or a strategic response which might equally say everything's going to go wrong, or it might say everything's going to go great based on the evidence. So what we need to do is be present in this moment. Yes, we could draw on the past, we can extrapolate out what the future might look like, but actually the only truth that we have is this present moment in time. This is the moment where you will make the decision, this moment right now where you make the decision. Be present. So it's really important to have a daily practice really where you anchor in being present. So whether that is mindfulness, taking some moments to stop and to breathe, to walk into nature, to notice, to look. I'm finding this time of year just amazing, just noticing just every day stuff growing so rapidly with the rain and the sun. I just feel like this spring has been explosive, more than any other year, but it might be just that I'm noticing more this year. So being present is really, really key. So to notice when you're catastrophizing, to notice when you're perhaps dwelling in the past. And one of the tools that I really love is about goal setting, which I think also helps you align with decision making. So often we might be a overly future focused person. So we're always focusing on that long term goal, and so you might be making decisions in the here and now based on something way, way, way far in the future, or you might be overly present, focused on the here and the now, and just reacting rather than being in the moment. And really that's where we need to be balancing. To be present, we can hold a view of what the future is, we can hold a view of what the past is, and really then we sit in the point of being present. So those are my tools to help you to feel more confident and be more confident in decision making. So the first is to recognise our preferences. The second, I've actually got 7 now, I've added 2 more from when I wrote my email. So notice your preferences. How do you naturally like to make decisions? Check, why am I putting off this decision? What's sitting behind this? Recognise the context, so step right back, have a think about that waterline decision making. Find your values or check in with your values. Balance strategy and emotion, or head and heart. See every decision as an opportunity for growth and be present. So as ever, I love to hear your comments. Please do comment inside Facebook or drop me an email at hello@emilypettyconsulting.com. Love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. As I said, this is the last of this mini-series. So we've had 3 mini-series. I'll be uploading these onto YouTube as well, so you can access them there. And I have got something very exciting coming in the next week or so. I've just been really, really busy putting loads of things together for you. And this is really an opportunity for you to redefine how you see success, to redefine how you see your career and yourself, and to define it in your way and on your terms. So that is coming next week, so please do watch this space. I can't wait to share it with you. And as ever, any questions, please do let me know, and I'm always open for discovery calls if you want to work with me, either one-to-one or in one of my group coaching programs, or if you want me to support your team, so to cover some of these themes and topics that I've been sharing through the Growing Leaders series. I can do that through a team away day, through a series of events and webinars with your team. So please do let me know. I'd love to be in touch, but otherwise have a lovely weekend and look forward to seeing you for something very new and exciting next week. Thanks.